Everyone knows France for its shining boulevards and high fashion, but what if that dream is quietly coming apart? More workers than ever now earn barely above minimum wage, and for every 3,000 euros they make, they see just 1,700 euros after taxes. Stagnant pay and shrinking purchasing power are erasing the middle class, yet the world barely notices. What is really happening behind the postcard image? Smicardization has become a shorthand for a new reality in the French workforce. More employees than ever are living on or just above the legal minimum wage. The SMIC, short for Salaire Minimum Interprofessionnel de Croissance, is the national wage floor set by law and adjusted each year. In 2025, the gross monthly SMIC stands at 1,801 euros and 80 cents for a full-time job. This figure is not just a number on a government website, it is a threshold shaping millions of lives. According to the OECD, France's minimum wage is unusually high compared to other developed countries, reaching about 60 to 70% of the median wage. This means the wage floor sits much closer to the middle than in most economies, squeezing the space for upward mobility. Public data from INSEE and Eurostat show a striking pattern. Nearly half of all full-time French workers earn less than 2,000 euros gross per month. That range covers both the minimum wage and the band just above it. The number of workers directly affected by SMIC increases is climbing fast. OECD and DARES figures reveal that 2 million private sector employees were impacted by SMIC hikes in 2021. Just 2 years later, that number had surged to 3.1 million, a rise of more than 50%. Economists point out that this is not a sudden spike, but the result of more than a decade of gradual compression. Wage growth at the bottom has pulled more and more jobs into the SMIC orbit, especially in retail, hospitality, and other service sectors. As a result, the wage distribution in France is bunched up near the floor. The share of workers in the 5 to 10% band above the SMIC has been rising, according to Eurostat's wage band data. The legal minimum, once a safety net for the lowest earners, now defines the reality for a growing slice of the workforce. In the words of one INSEE economist, the French wage ladder is becoming flatter at the bottom, with fewer rungs to climb. Household budgets across France are caught in a tightening vice. The numbers lay bare a pattern. Consumption growth has slowed to just 0.2% year-on-year in the third quarter of 2025, far below the long-term average. Instead of spending, families are saving at record levels. 18.7% of their disposable income now sits untouched, a figure nearly 5 points higher than before the pandemic. The mood is cautious, shaped by years of real wages lagging behind rising costs. Even as official statistics report a modest gain, real wages were up 2.5% in 2024 and just 0.9% in 2025. The extra euros barely register against higher bills for rent, food, and energy. Behind these numbers sits a less visible force, the tax wedge. For a worker earning 3,000 euros gross per month, around the average for a full-time private sector job, the journey from payslip to pocket is sobering. After social contributions and income tax, the take-home amount drops to roughly 1,700 euros. This means nearly half of the total labor cost disappears before it can be spent. France's tax wedge, at over 47% for single workers, is among the highest in the developed world. The effect is not only felt in paychecks, but in what families can actually afford. Stagnant wage growth collides with a heavy tax burden, leaving less room for essentials, let alone extras. The result is a subtle but persistent squeeze. People are holding back on purchases, cutting back on outings, and postponing big decisions. The evidence is everywhere: muted retail sales, rising household savings, and a sense of unease about the future. As the numbers tighten, the lived experience of the French middle class grows more precarious, setting the stage for stories that go beyond statistics. Aline and Mark live with their 2 children in a modest apartment on the eastern edge of the Paris region. Both work full-time, Aline as a nurse in a nearby clinic, Mark as a sales manager in a logistics firm. Their combined monthly income hovers just above 3,800 euros gross, but the family ledger tells a different story. Each morning, Mark spends 45 minutes on the RER to reach his office. Aline's shift starts at dawn, and the cost of petrol and public transport alone eats up nearly 400 euros every month. Rent claims 1,250 euros, a figure that has crept higher each year, while utilities and insurance add another 250 euros. Childcare for their youngest comes to 320 euros, even after public subsidies. The numbers leave little room for error. After groceries, phone bills, and school expenses, their savings line stays stubbornly at zero. Unexpected repairs or a dental bill mean dipping into an overdraft. For Aline, the stress is not just about what they cannot afford, but the sense that working harder brings no extra security. The family's budget, once a source of pride, now feels like a monthly exercise in creative subtraction. Sophie clocks in at a small cafe in Montreuil, her contract stamped CDD, fixed term, rolling, always uncertain. Each month her hours shift with the season and the owner's mood. Some weeks she scrapes together 30 hours, others she barely reaches 20. Her pay slip tells the story in numbers. Gross pay hovers just above the SMIC, the national minimum wage, but never by much. Overtime is rare, bonuses even rarer. On paper she works part-time, but the reality is a patchwork of early mornings and late nights, with gaps spent commuting on the RER from her flat in Saint-Denis. The train fare alone eats into her earnings, and any missed shift means a lighter envelope at the end of the month. Like Sophie, hundreds of thousands of workers rely on short-term CDD contracts. DARES counted over 3.7 million such contracts in 2024. For many, the promise of a permanent CDI job feels out of reach. The security that once defined French work life has given way to a cycle of renewal notices and fluctuating pay, leaving workers like Sophie always one step from the edge. On a quiet street in Roubaix, the old bakery stands shuttered, its window dark behind a faded sign. Once 3 people worked here, now the owner manages alone, hoping to keep the doors open until summer. He explains that there's not enough left at the end of the month for another salary, as he stacks unsold loaves for the food bank van. In the next arrondissement, luxury boutiques display handbags behind polished glass, their prices immune to the world outside. But just a few blocks away, the local Restos du Cœur food bank reports double the number of families seeking help compared to last winter. Volunteers sort through crates of pasta and canned goods, noting that many of the new arrivals once owned small businesses or worked steady jobs. The postcard image of France, Parisian style, bustling markets, cafe terraces, hides a growing divide. For every luxury storefront, there is a bakery downsizing, a shopfront gone dark, and a line at the food bank growing longer with each passing week. France's public finances are under intense pressure. Treasury figures for 2025 put the national debt between 112 and 116% of gross domestic product, a level that rivals some of Europe's most troubled economies. The government deficit is stuck between 5.4% and 6.1% of gross domestic product, far above the European Union's official limit. While headlines celebrate luxury exports and tourism, the country's industrial base is quietly shrinking. In the first half of 2025, 82 factories closed, while only 44 opened, according to Trendeo's industrial log. That's nearly twice as many closures as new sites. The imbalance is not just numbers on a spreadsheet. It means fewer stable jobs, lost regional anchors, and a growing sense of decline in once thriving towns. These trends signal a deeper strain beneath the surface, raising questions about how much longer the current model can hold before the pressure reaches a breaking point. Youth unemployment in France stands at 18.2%, a rate that leaves thousands of graduates and apprentices searching for work or looking abroad. In Lyon, a 27-year-old engineer describes her decision to move to Berlin after months of rejected applications at home. She is not alone. Talent flight is becoming an everyday reality as young professionals chase higher pay and better prospects across Europe. On the ground, unions are sounding the alarm. Sophie Binet, Secretary General of the CGT, warns that more than 300,000 jobs are at risk as deindustrialization accelerates. Redundancy plans and site closures, once rare headlines, now fill union maps and government inboxes. Policy choices now hang in the balance. Some call for urgent investment in industry and training. Others push for labor market flexibility or deeper cuts. Each path carries trade-offs between protecting jobs and restoring competitiveness, and between social safety nets and fiscal discipline. The outcome remains uncertain, and the stakes could not be higher for a generation on the edge. France now faces over 18% youth unemployment and a shrinking middle class, even as luxury profits soar. These widening gaps are not abstract. They define futures, choices, and hope. The real question is, can a nation thrive if its promise no longer reaches most of its people? Share your thoughts below.